Hello, welcome back, boys and girls. Today we're reading day 13 of the book series, The Month of Christmas, written by T.Ferries. Now, this remarkable story is all about Santa Claus, the fairies, the reindeers, and all the great animal and people that live in the North Pole. Now, let's see what happens and let's get started. Day 13. Outdoor games. Now, day 13 of Christmas month is Outdoor Games Day. All the elves are off today and they need a break from work. There are so many games on this day, and here are just a few. Everyone, including the snow creatures, go to downhill for the races. It is the tallest, steepest hill at the North Pole, and Old Man Winter is the starter. And the North Wind watches. He loves outdoor games. First, the snow creatures have a Bellywhopper race, and they start at the top of the hill and slide down on their bellies all the way to the finish line. And everyone cheers. Now, who do you think will win? When the Bellywhopper race is done, the elves have races. And the Bellywhoppers pack the snow down to make ice, so it is very hard and slick and fast. The elves have two sled races. The first race is to see who can go the fastest straight down the hill. The ice is so fast that one time an elf forgot to use his feet for brakes at the end and slid all the way back to the enchanted forest. Luckily, he was able to use the travel paddle that the pink fairy made to get back to the North Pole rather quickly. Did you know that the first sleds were used on sands? The Egyptians used sleds to carry obelisks over the desert sand around 3100 BC. I was just a mouseling then. The other sled race is a slalom. The elves race down the hill and must weave around snow boulders and collect moonbeams. Sometimes Jack Frost throws snowflakes to distract them. Sometimes they crash and fly into the air, but always land in soft snow drifts unhurt. The elves with the fastest time and the most moonbeams is the winner. There's also sled jumping. An elf slides down the hill on a sled, then up a snow ramp. The elf who jumps the farthest is the winner. One time, the North Wind was watching and sneezed. The gust of wind made the elf fly out of sight. It took him a full day to walk back home. His jump was disqualified for being wind-aided, and the elves also do target sled jumping. They fly off the ramp and must land as close to the target as possible, kind of like horseshoes for sleds. Now, curling is very popular with the elves. They play outside on the frozen lake. Did you know curling was played in Scotland as far back as the 1500s? Now, after the outdoor games, every elf is so cold. For dinner, they make a special Christmas soup and bread. And the soup is full of so many vegetables, and the bread is crisp and warm. The soup always has one Christmas pepper to add spice. It is always the last thing thrown in the pot. Every elf is careful with the Christmas pepper because, as I told you earlier, Christmas peppers are toxic to animals, especially dogs and cats. Mrs. Claus makes sure Iris and Fudge do not get near a pepper. Christmas soup and bread is an elf tradition because it was the first food the elves shared when they came to the North Pole. Now let me tell you that story. No elf eats meat. They only eat fruits, vegetables, cheese, and grains. And when they left the enchanted forest, each elf brought magic seeds that grow anywhere, even in snow. And the seeds grow as soon as they hit the ground. But the seeds need sunlight to grow, of course. And it was night time. The travelers had brought some vegetables, but not enough for a good dinner. They did not plan well. Every elf did bring a for the reindeer. Thank goodness. And after a long journey, all were famished. Now, what do you think they can do? The sugar plum fairies were also on the journey. The pink fairy said, "I can help." And she waved her wand, and a large pot appeared. She tossed a speck of fairy dust in the pot and said, "Pot, cook now." And the pot began to cook. And she said, "Fairy dust soup is good, but vegetable soup is better." The elves and soldiers ran to their sleighs and got a few vegetables that they brought. And there were tomatoes and potatoes, carrots and peas, corn and onions, green beans and red beans, and lastly, a pepper. And they tossed it all in the giant pot. And the pot bubbled and boiled. The soup smelled delicious. The yellow fairy said, "Bread would be good with the soup." And she waved her wand, and this time an oven appeared. And she tossed in a few grains of wheat and said, "Oven, bake now." And the oven began to bake, and the wheat grain became many loaves of wheat bread. As the soup boiled and bubbled and the bread baked brown, the elves ran to their sleighs and fed the reindeer the hay they had brought for the trip. The reindeer was also famished and happy to be fed. Now the pink fairy said, "Pot, stop now." And he did. The pot was full and there was now enough soup for all. And the yellow fairy said, "Oven, stop now." And he did. It was full of golden brown loaves of bread. After a hearty bowl of soup and a large slice of bread, everyone was full. The pink fairy said, "You were all so generous, and the little food you had, I will give each household a magic cooking pot when you finish building your homes. And you can add the things you want to cook and say, 'Pot, cook now.' To stop the pot, say, 'Pot, stop now.' Be careful. If you do not say 'Pot, stop now,' the pot will cook and cook and cook and soon make too much food. Remember, pot, stop now. The yellow fairy said, I too will give you a gift. Your generosity to share your food has touched my heart. Each household will be given a magic oven. Put in one seed of grain, and the oven will bake one loaf of bread. Be sure to say, oven, stop now, or the bread will turn from golden brown to charcoal black. And that is how Jack Frost, still an elf at the time, got his magic oven for the bowling alley. The elves slept in their sleighs that night under heavy blankets, and they were warm and cozy from eating the hot soup and delicious bread earlier. And they dreamed of sugar plums and fairies and soup and bread. Now the next morning, one elf woke up early. He wanted to make breakfast for everyone. He had a potato seed and tossed it in the snow. And since the snow was now up, the seed immediately grew into a potato plant. He dug the potatoes out of the snow and went to the large magic pot, and he tossed potatoes in and said, Pot, cook now. And the pot did. He also tossed several grains of rye in the oven and said, Oven, bake now. And the oven began to bake loaves of rye bread. Potato soup and dark rye bread is a favorite breakfast of every elf. Now the pot was getting fuller and fuller. The bread was getting browner and browner. Soon the pot was almost full and the bread was almost brown. And the elf said, Pot, stop now. But the pot did not stop. And he said, Oven, now stop. And the bread turned the darker brown. What could he do? The soup will soon spill over and the bread will soon burn. So he ran and got Mrs. Claus, and they both ran back to the pot and oven, and Mrs. Claus said, Pot, stop now. And he did. And she yelled, Oven, stop now. And he did. Now the elf was relieved that he did not want breakfast for everyone. The elf wrote down, Pot, stop now, and oven, stop now, on a piece of paper. He would tape it to the wall in his kitchen after he built his house. And soon, all the elves, soldiers, and fairies woke up and smelled something delicious, and they ran to the cooking pot and oven. Mrs. Claus had bowls ready to serve the soup, and the little elf was slicing rye bread for all. They had a wonderful breakfast and then traveled on to the North Pole. I hope you like that story, boys and girls. Remember, always be generous and share what you have when others are in need. Now go play some outdoor games if it's not too late at night, of course. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later. Bye.